Hello, and welcome to predicting every single game of Euro 2024 Germany. My name is Scott Lebo. This is Salibo Football. This is the first video. It's brand new. I think I got a lot of ball knowledge. I think I know what I'm talking about, but we'll put it to the test today. So without further ado, let's get into the video. All right, some quick notes before we truly get started. First off, obviously, it's hard to predict every single game. So some of these games, I'm not exactly the most confident in the score. Some of these games, I'm not exactly the most confident in the result. Some of the groups, I'm not exactly most confident in the order, fully down, top to bottom. Obviously, I'm not going to get everything correct. But the important thing is, the more important it gets, the more confident I get. So, score, that's hard to do. But I'm a little bit more confident in the result and a little bit more confident in the group standings. So if the results don't even go as I predicted, still think the group is going to end up that way, or at least somewhat that way. So this is my best guess. I've been doing a lot of research, listening to a lot of podcasts. So let's see how much I know. All right, let's start at the beginning. Tomorrow, for me, match day 1, Germany, Scotland, Group A. Let's start with Scotland. I think they're the easier team to talk about. Not a lot going forward for them. I'm not sure how many goals they're going to score in this tournament. Very defensively sound, play with a 5-back most of the time. Andy Robertson is absolutely great. Scott McTominay is great. Both of them are really good going forward. Again, though, who's scoring the goals? Dykes is my guess who's going to start. You got Shankland coming off the bench, but I'm not really confident in either of them's ability. I would say the player to watch for Scotland has got to be John McGinn. And if they're going to score goals, I think he's going to need to have a really good tournament. On the flip side, in this first game, Germany, in October and in September, things were looking really bad for them. And if people were saying that they were going to be a favorite at this Euro, it was, for the most part, purely because they were going to be the host. But that's not the case anymore. They've had a really good turnaround in recent time. Kai Havertz has had a great year with Arsenal. And the Leverkusen core for them is going to be really important. Leverkusen, obviously, great year, undefeated season. But this team is young. I think they're in the transition period. I think things are starting to go the right way, but I think they need a little bit more time. I don't think this is their tournament, which is why I've gone for the 1-0 score. This is my prediction. I think Germany's going to take this one pretty handedly, but I think it's going to be difficult for them to score. I think they're going to dominate the ball. I think they're going to dominate the statistics, but I don't think they're going to score as many goals as some people think. All right, moving on to the second game from Group A. We got our second 2 teams. And again, I think we'll start with the team that I think is easier to talk about. There's less to talk about with them. That'll be Switzerland. They're an old team. They're aging out. I love Shakir. I love Xhaka, and Xhaka might have just had his best season with Leverkusen. He's instrumental to their success. Sommer's a great goalie, but I really think they're going to struggle in this tournament, and I don't think it's a tournament for them. If they go pretty far in this tournament, it's going to need to be a really good Granit Xhaka performance throughout the Euros. On the flip side, we've got Hungary, who might be the exact opposite. Young, hungry, young. They want to win. They're ready. They were really good in their qualifiers. They've got Szoboszlai through the middle for Liverpool, who with Liverpool, he hasn't had the opportunity to really have a lot of freedom, but I think he does get that freedom in this Hungarian side. If you've watched them play, he gets to play that, creative number 8 role where he's really dictating the pace and dictating the possession. Hungary like to play expansive, progressive football. I really like watching that. And so I think they're going to be a fun team to watch, and I think they're going to surprise a lot of people at this tournament. I know they're everybody's dark horse pick, but I think it's for good reason. Szoboszlai, Adam Nuj, Nego, they've got really good players, but I think the biggest piece for Hungary is that they play as a team. Without that star piece, Szoboszlai is their best player, but I don't really think they have that true star piece, which makes them, have to play more team football. They have really good chemistry. They work really well together. They work for each other. They want to win for each other. And I think that's a really good start for this Hungarian side. And that's why, I've gone for 2-0 win for Hungary. I think it'll be a pretty dominant performance from them, and I think they're going to open a lot of people's eyes with this first game. All right, now we get into what I would call the group of death, Group B. Really talented countries in this group. You got Spain, you got Croatia, you got Italy, the holding champions, and then you've got Albania. It's going to be a tough tournament for them. They've been to the Euros once. They've been to one major tournament. They got a win in the last one. I don't think that's going to happen again this time. They've got a really tough group. But that being said, all of these teams have problems, and so let's start with these two. Let's start with Croatia. They're quite old. Their golden generation is kind of past its prime, and this really does feel like the last opportunity for Modric and Perisic, who's still in there, and that golden generation to like get an actual trophy for the nation. They came really close, lost in the finals of the World Cup, lost in the semifinals of the World Cup, but they've got no silverware to show for it. Finals of the Nations League, but they didn't get silverware even in that. So this really does feel like a last chance for this Croatian golden generation. On the other side of things, Spain, really, really young team. Feels similar to Germany. They're a transitionary team. It's a new blend of players, but this young group of players does actually have a lot of experience because that golden generation for Spain aged out quite a while ago. And so the Spanish FA has really been pushing in new players for years and years now. Pedri's already played in a World Cup. I think the key piece for Spain, in my opinion, is going to be straight down the middle. Unai Simon needs to be really, really good for Spain. Their center back pairing, which I'm going to guess is probably going to be Laporte with Lenormand, and then Rodri. He's the number one key player for Spain. He's excellent with Man City, and I think that if Rodri has a good tournament and if Spain can go on to win this, Rodri's name has to be thrown in for the Ballon d'Or this year. Rodri's been sensational. It took so long for a Rodri side with him in the 11 to actually lose a game with City. And then obviously Alvaro Morata, he's going to be the captain. People have criticized his finishing in the past, but I think he's an older, mature player now who can deal with the noise. There's a reason he's the captain. The Spanish team really loves him. I don't think he is going to be the star player necessarily for the Spanish side, but I do think he's going to be a role player, and I think they're going to count on him in some crucial moments. Between these two sides, Spain like to keep the ball, and Croatia are really pragmatic. They like to catch you on the counter. They don't really like to push things on their own. They've got a great midfield, but their attack, Kramaric, is he going to play? He's not even a true 9. Is he going to play the 9? Perisic is up there. He's getting old. I think both of these teams are going to struggle to score, which is why, obviously, I've gone for a 0-0 between the two of them. Simple as that. Italy is not the same team they were before. The defense has changed a lot. I think the core of the team in midfield is really strong. That's almost the exact same midfield, if not the same midfield that they played in the last Euros. And then if Chiesa can find the form he had at the last Euros, that'd be amazing. The striker's a question, of course. Immobile's been called up. I don't think he's going to play very much. So you ask, is it Raspadori? Is it Scamacca? It's hard to know. There's a lot of questions around this Italian team, but we'll get into it a little bit more when they have matches that I am not sure what the result is going to be. I really do think that this is going to be pretty simple for them. Like I said, Albania, they've been to a major tournament once before, and they got one win in that tournament, and I don't think they're going to get a win in this tournament. I've gone with a pretty simple 2-0 win for Italy. I do think that this will probably be a challenging game for them. I don't think it's going to look pretty all the time. Italy, like Croatia, they like to play pragmatic. They're very defensive. So I think it could look ugly at times, but I do think they're going to get the 2 goals. I don't think it's going to be anything that sets the world on fire, and I don't think it's going to be the best win, but it's going to be a win. And it's an important one in this tournament because 3 points, if you're a third-place team, 3 points might be enough to send you through just like that. These are 2 really interesting teams. I think we'll start with Poland. This is now into Group D. We're skipping right over Group C. We'll get to them. All the games, they're not necessarily in group order all the time. But Poland, we'll start with them, as I said. Similar to the Swiss, similar to Croatia, kind of aging out. They've got two stars, Wojciech Szczesny in goal and Robert Lewandowski up top. But I think one of the major problems for this Polish side is, and you see it all the time, a 9 can't do it on their own, especially a true goal-scoring 9, like Lewandowski. Lewandowski's not going to pick the ball up in midfield and dribble people. I think he's a real goal-scoring threat, but in order for him to make his mark on this tournament, they need to get him the ball in dangerous areas. And that's why my player to watch is not Lewandowski, it's not Szczesny. I think Szczesny needs to have a good tournament as well if they're going to go far. But I think the player to watch is Zielinski in the midfield. He needs to have a good tournament, and I think he could have a good tournament. And if he does, Poland might be a little bit better than I think they're going to be. But he's going to have to be the engine. He's going to have a really good tournament. He's going to have to be the one dictating the pace because Lewandowski, like I said, he's not going to pick the ball up in midfield and go all the way on his own. And I think Zielinski needs to be that guy who sets Lewandowski up to be the man that Poland has seen in the past, Barcelona has seen, Bayern Munich has seen. On the other side of things, this is a Dutch team with a lot of talent. Weghorst probably not going to start. He's really good in the World Cup in that one game against Argentina, but I think Memphis Depay is going to be the guy. You ask, Ian Maatsen got called up late. Is he going to play? I think the problem with this Dutch team, unfortunately, is in the coaching. I think their staff really likes to play a pragmatic style. His name is escaping me right now, but their coach really likes to play pragmatic, and he also doesn't like to play a 5-back. And unfortunately for the Dutch, I think the 5-back is the way to go. And now you might say, well, that's super pragmatic. That's super defensive. That's exactly what you said the Dutch play like. But when you have Virgil van Dijk and, Ake and De Ligt and Steven de Vrij and Matt de Roon, you have such a defensive team, so good at center back. And then on the outsides, you have Frimpong, you have Ian Maatsen, you have Denzel Dumfries, you have Daley Blind. And I think all 4 of those guys would be better at wing back than at a traditional, outside back. So I do think a 5-back suits them better, especially with Frankie de Jong not being at this tournament. But I don't think they're going to play that. All signs in friendlies leading up to the tournament and in qualification is that that's not how the Dutch are going to play. So I do think that this is going to be a tough ask for the Dutch, especially in this group. This is a tough group. Austria and France are 2 really, really tough teams. Ralf Rangnick has really turned Austria around, and the French are the French. But with that being said, you've got an aging Poland team versus a Dutch team that I don't think is coached in the way that they need to be coached. I don't think the coaching staff is bad. I just don't think that they're the right fit for this group of players, which we'll get to it later, but I think Austria is exactly the right fit, coaching staff to player, and that's why I think that they're going to finish second in this group. Little spoiler there. But with that being said, I'm going to go for a 2-1. Like I said, a lot of these are guesses. I think the Dutch will win a close game. I think it'll be a 1-goal game, whether it's 1-0, 2-1, 3-2. I'm not entirely sure. I gave the Polish a goal, and I think the Dutch will win by 1, so 2-1. I'm moving backwards now to Group C and to England's group. So this is a group that a lot of people are going to be excited about. We'll see how many people are watching this video. Probably not a lot. But Group C, Slovenia. Again, it's similar, in my opinion, to Poland. Guys in the midfield are really going to have to step up because you got Oblak and you got Sesko. And I don't think Sesko is Lewandowski. I don't think he'll be as much of a goal-scoring threat, but I do think he'll be more able to drop into midfield. So he's more my player to watch than Lewandowski is with Poland. But with that being said, I think that Slovenia will need to have a perfect showing in order for this to be a successful tournament for them. That being said, this is a group where it's possible. Top end heavy, England, but besides that, the 2 teams that I would say, coming in are favorited above them are Denmark and Serbia, and you really don't know what you're going to get from those 2. So Slovenia are not out by any means, especially because this Danish team that they're playing against in match day one, um, really old. It's a common theme in this tournament. Their golden generation has passed. Their time for successful tournaments has passed. They were in the semifinals of the last Euro before getting knocked out by their current group mates, England. Um, but Ericsson's getting up there, Kier's getting up there, even Schmeichel's getting up there now. Delaney, Højbjerg. Højbjerg hasn't even played that much this season. Not to mention, I would say I'm pretty disappointed with who was called up for this Danish side. With an aging team, and we'll get to Belgium later, but I think the way that the Belgians did their roster and did their call-ups is really smart. They kept a lot of the stars of that golden generation in there, but they mixed in some of this young talent. And I think that's something that's missing for Denmark. A lot of their potential young superstars or potential next generation of players are not going to get minutes at this Euros. And, maybe that'll be good for this Euros, but I don't think that this will be a good Euros for Denmark either way. And so I think getting their young players experience would have given them a more successful tournament from the standpoint of Danish football. Not from the standpoint necessarily of how far you go in the tournament, but for the future of football in Denmark. That being said, this is a tough game to call. This is a tough group to call. Like I said, it's top heavy, England, and then after that, second place is anyone's guess. And this is the type of group where a third place team could definitely sneak through because Denmark, Slovenia, and Serbia might lose all their games to England, but they could all beat one of the other teams and lose to one of the other teams and all finish with 3 points. And like I said earlier, 3 points could be enough to get you through in the Euros. So, this is a tougher group to call, but I've gone with a simple 1-1, giving Sesko a goal. And, I think that Danes are the better team, but with Jan Oblak in goal, I think they'll struggle to score too many. I think they'll have more chances, but I think Oblak will keep Slovenia in it, and I think Sesko will have a goal. So, staying in the same group, Serbia. Already talked about them slightly. I'll talk more about them in a second, but I want to talk about England first. They're the number one favorite in some people's books. I think they are a favorite. I think anybody who says France is not the number one favorite for this tournament is crazy. France could have a B team in this tournament. England could have a B team in this tournament, though. I do think the French are the number one favorite, and they should be the number one favorite. But England are a really good side. We're talking about a team that could have Premier League young player of the year, Cole Palmer, sitting on the bench the whole tournament because there are so many guys ahead of him. And that's up to Southgate. That's not up to me. I'm a Chelsea fan. So if it were up to me, Palmer's starting every game. And I don't even like England. I just want Palmer, But Foden, Premier League Player of the Year. Harry Kane, despite the fact that he still can't win trophies, he banged it at Bayern. Top goal scorer in the league. That's not an easy league. Dortmund, Dortmund are in there. Leverkusen were incredible this year. Leipzig's in there. So, top goal scorer in the Bundesliga is no laughing matter. Great player. Bukayo Saka did numbers for Arsenal. He was in the shout for, player of the year and young player of the year. So they've got guys. And then, you have to mention Jude Bellingham. He's sensational. Declan Rice, probably the best 6 in the world. Bellingham Rice maybe the best 6 in the Premier League. Him or Rodri. It's 50-50. But Bellingham, I think people are overhyping him a little bit to the extent that, he's really good and he's in the contention for the Ballon d'Or, no question. He's not the generational talent that we've seen in previous years, and neither is Vinicius. The stats are down for these two guys. If this were a Messi or Ronaldo year for Ballon d'Or, this would be pretty sad. Those guys were banging 40, 50 goals a year, plus assists. But somebody's got to win it. So anyway, Harry Maguire's not going to be there. I think that's a big blow for England. Jack Grealish didn't get the call up. I think there are better teams or better players in the team ahead of him. So I don't disagree with that decision. But England are favorites, and England should handle them. I know people are worried about the Iceland game. I think with England, when the problem comes sometimes is ego. I do think they think of themselves as a favorite, and sometimes they let that go to their head. As someone from the U.S., I think that's part of what happened against the U.S. I think the U.S. had a good game plan, and England got in their heads in that game. But they can also go the other way and beat a team like Iran, handedly in match day one at that World Cup. So it's a mixed bag for England. I do think that in this first game, especially coming out of that Iceland game, I think they're going to struggle. And Serbia are no laughing matter. I know people, they tend to struggle at tournaments, and this is actually their first Euro since becoming an independent country, despite the fact that they've been at the last 3 or 4 World Cups, or been to 3 or 4 World Cups since they became an independent country. But for me, the biggest thing for Serbia is the fact that Mitrovic and Milinkovic-Savic are the 2 key players, and they play together for club in Saudi Arabia. And some of you might say, Saudi Arabia, it's the Saudi league. But I think the potential for those two to be on the same page, have had a year playing, and these two are guys that already were linking up a lot for Serbia and had a good relationship. So for them to have strengthened that relationship, I do think that they will play really well in this tournament, the 2 of them. And they've got a good team. Milinkovic in defense, Milinkovic-Savic in goal. There's a lot of people with the name Milinkovic or Milinkovic-Savic in this team. But yeah, with that being said, Serbia, I think, is a team that can make a lot of noise at this tournament. Not too much noise. I'm not picking them to go all the way. Don't worry. But this is a group where, a team like Serbia, who might not be the best, might not have the best players, might not have the best track record at major tournaments. Just look at how the World Cup went for them. But I think a team like Serbia, who actually has some cohesion and some team chemistry and aren't aged too much like a Denmark, could do something in this group where, the 2 other teams that they'll be probably competing with for the second place qualifier and potentially a third place qualifier are going to be Slovenia and Denmark, who I'm not at all impressed by. So I think there's potential in this group for Serbia, and I think they're in a good position to get the England game out of the way early, especially with the way the tournament goes with third place teams potentially qualifying. Getting this game out of the way early, especially while England are in a poor run of form after that Iceland game. I think England will come into this game nervous, and I don't think they'll perform to their best. And I wouldn't be surprised if Serbia take a lead in this game. Picking the 3 Lions. And I'm picking Serbia to take the lead, and I'm picking England to struggle. But I'm picking Southgate to make the right substitutions. And I'm picking Harry Kane to figure it out, like he always does for England late in games. Doing some more of that skipping around that you do on match day 1, we've got Romania and Ukraine. These are 2 really interesting teams, and probably what I would say is the most interesting group in the tournament. If I could make one recommendation to anybody who's actually watching this video, it would be to watch Group E, because Group E is going to be interesting. Belgium's golden generation, gone. Okay, most of them. They've still got Carrasco, they've still got De Bruyne, they've still got Lukaku and Vertonghen. But for the most part, Hazard's gone, Courtois is gone, he's not playing. So I think this is a really interesting group. Anything can go. Romania, Ukraine, Slovakia, and Belgium. I think it's going to be a really, really fun one to watch. And unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people are going to watch it because the names Romania, Ukraine, and Slovakia don't jump off the page. And the name Belgium doesn't really jump off the page anymore. So I think people are going to miss out on what's going to be a really competitive group. That being said, Romania, they're a really stout defensive team. They like to play pragmatically. They're pretty good in qualifying. If I had to pick a player to watch for Romania, for me, it would be Coman on the wing. Yeah, but I think this is an interesting group and an interesting opportunity, and I think for Ukraine on the other side of things to be in this tournament is awesome. They almost didn't qualify. It was really tough in qualification for them. Took the playoffs, and it took late goals in the playoffs and penalties and all that drama. But Mikhailo Mudryk got him here. And I think Mudryk could be a big part of this team, but I think there's a lot of guys that could be. Um, I think Zinchenko, Mikolenko, Matvienko, Stepanenko, Dovbyek up top. He's sensational. He's had a really good year this year at Metz. So, I think there's a lot of room for this Ukrainian team to perform better than they did in qualifying. And I think on the national or international stage, actually, with games that are being watched, qualification often isn't watched by every fan, but this tournament is going to be. It's going to be watched by everyone, and I think that's actually going to help Ukraine. I think they're going to have a lot of backing, a lot of support at this tournament, and I think the vibes are going to be really good for them. But I think Romania are also going to be a team to watch at this tournament. Really pragmatic, really well organized. So yeah, I've gone for a 1-1. I think guys like Hagi and Stanciu for Romania could prove threats, and this is a really big opportunity for a guy like Hagi. Everybody knows the name Hagi. His father was a brilliant player, but he hasn't really shown it. He is at 25 years old. One of this new generation. It's not all about scoring. It's more creative. He's very skillful. But I think this is a really, really big tournament for him, and he could show up in a big way for Romania. But I think it's too tight to call on this one. I'm going to go for a draw. Keeping in the trend of Group E, we got Belgium and Slovakia. If I had to pick a name out of a hat to talk about for this Slovakian team, it would be Skriniar, the Inter Milan defender. Or former Inter Milan defender. He's with PSG now. But yeah, he's a really good player, really talented player, and I think he's going to be really important for the Slovakian team. I also think potentially Thomas Suslov, I hope I said the name right, could break out at this tournament potentially, but there's not a lot of big names in this Slovakian team. There's not a lot to say about them. And there's a lot to say about this Belgian team. Hazard's gone. Courtois' gone. I said it already. The golden generation's aging out. But I think they did it right. I think they did it right because guys like Jeremy Doku are coming up. Onana is going to be really important in their midfield. They've got new defenders coming in to go alongside Vertonghen in the back. With Thate and Face. I really hope I said their names correctly. I probably didn't. But those are two really, really promising young defenders, an outside back and a center back, respectively, coming into the team. The balance across what I would guess is going to be the starting 11 is really good. I think Doku's probably going to play alongside Carrasco and Lukaku. And I've heard good things about Lukaku coming into this tournament because he wants a bigger move than what he's looking at getting right now from Chelsea. Napoli's interested, a lot of Italian teams, potentially a move within England, but I think he wants something bigger. I think he's ambitious, and I think he's hungry going into this tournament, and I think he could be dangerous. I think the player to watch though is Kevin De Bruyne. What are we going to get from Kevin De Bruyne? Stats were sensational this year, but he had a lot of injury problems. And there were a lot of games where he looked slow and sluggish because of injury problems. And there's a reason why he's linked with Saudi, and there's a reason why he's linked with the MLS. So I think, unfortunately for Belgium, there is potential for a big-time bust at this tournament. However, I think that coaching staff has done a really good job with the players they called up, that if that golden generation busts, the youngsters are there to pick it up for them. And if the youngsters decide we're not ready, the golden generation is there to back them up. So I think the balance across the team is really good. So with all that being said, I have gone for a nice, easy 2-0 win. I don't think Belgium are going to blow people away. I think they're going to be clinical, well organized, kind of like a machine, just going about their business. And I think Jeremy Doku is going to be sensational at this tournament. This is going to be a breakout tournament. He was great for Man City towards the end of the year. Yeah. Austria, France. This is a really interesting game. We've already picked the Dutch a while back against Poland. Now we've got France. You could go on and on and on about France. Picking a player to watch is nearly impossible. Picking a potential breakout star is nearly impossible. It's a difficult ask to talk about this French team because they are so talented. Guys that they left behind, like Malo Gusto, Christopher Nkunku, guys that aren't projected to start. Upamecano is projected to start over William Saliba, who might have been the best center back in the Premier League this year, arguable. So I think it's interesting. The French team is really interesting, but they're the best team in the world. I think that's without question. I think they're better than Argentina. I think obviously Argentina beat them in that World Cup final, but when you talk about talent as a country, France is basically unmatched. I do think that they could have a second team come to this Euro and make the quarterfinals. And I don't know of many teams in history that could take a second team to a major tournament and have them make a quarterfinal. France is one of those teams. But I don't want to go on and on about France. I don't want this video to be super long. And I'm already talking about every team too much. Basically just skipped over Slovakia. But Austria is a team that I really do want to talk about because Ralf Rangnick is sensational for this team. Some of the things he's done for this team are just perfect. He's former coach in the Red Bull program, which a lot of these Austrian players come through. A lot of them from Leipzig, a lot of them from Salzburg in Austria, which are really important, and even more so important when Rangnick has a specific style. He likes everybody on the team to press. He has some quote that's like, it's kind of like Yoda, do or do not, there is no try. It's press or press not. There is no the forwards are pressing or we're having a light press. It's either go or don't go. And with Ralph, it's go. And players who have been brought up in this Red Bull system know it because Ralf Rangnick, former coach in this program, he built a lot of the systems of Red Bull that are intact today. And so a lot of these players, you look at the results that Austria have had in recent times, they're good. They're a good team. They're somebody to watch. They're a dark horse at this tournament. They're another favorite pick for dark horse. So it's kind of boring that I'm picking them as well as a dark horse, but they are. And I think the press against a French team that likes, unfortunately, I think they're probably the most attackingly talented team in years, decades. They're sensational. And yet they like to play pragmatic, systematic, defensive, counterattacking football, which a lot of the time is really boring to watch. France will have these boring 2-0 games where they have two chances, they score both. I think Austria's press is gonna do really well against that. But the French are the French. And I'll talk more about both of these teams when I can, but the French are the French. Austria is really good, so I don't think it's going to be as out of hand as I'm sure people would predict because it's France, but at the same time, it's France. So I've gone 3-1. Pretty simple. Austria is a team to watch, though. When Austria is on, put the game on. Georgia's first major tournament ever. First Euro or World Cup or Copa America, whatever. They've never been to any of these before. It's a big occasion for them. Really big occasion. They've got some good players. I think that the player to watch is going to be their goalie. I want to try and say his name. I don't think I should. They got some really hard to pronounce names. If you have FIFA, go on the Euro. the Euro game mode, look at this Georgian roster. Tell me how many names you can pronounce. Mama, I'll call him Mama. There's a lot of letters after that, but it starts with Mama. Really good goalkeeper, really promising. Yeah, I think this Georgian team went about this the right way. Their FA has been trying to grow the sport for years in Georgia. This is not like, oh, they made it on a whim one year and they got rocked at the tournament and they weren't ready. No. They have been working for this. This was not some fluke. This was a goal that they had, and they worked and they worked and they worked and they got here. And now that they're here, don't be surprised if they turn some heads at points. I'm not saying they're going to beat everybody. I'm not saying they're going to go deep. They will play well, and they will surprise some people. Turkey, on the other hand, Turkey is, they're always counted as a dark horse. They've got some great players. I think the player to highlight is Enes Ünal, who's not going to the tournament. He's a great player, and they're going to miss him. But they have other players on the team. Gulair, sensational player. Çalhanoğlu, he's untouchable in the Inter Milan starting 11. So they've got guys. They've got guys who can do a job. I think the problem with this Turkish team is emotion. You've seen in the past that Turkey can go far. They've been in the past, since 2000. Forget what year exactly they made a quarterfinal or a semifinal of the Euros. So they have been here and done it before. But last Euro, they didn't get a single result their way. Not a draw. Not even a draw. 0 points in the group stage. So it's a mixed bag. And I think if they come out with a poor showing against this Georgian side, it could be a long tournament for them. I don't think they're going to, but if they do, don't be surprised if that sets the tone for the rest of the tournament, especially because they have an Italian as their coach who are also very emotional about football. So it's just an emotional melting pot, and I think when things go wrong, they will go very wrong for Turkey. So beware. Both of these teams, I think Georgia has boom potential. A lot of, I think they have a higher ceiling than most people would say, and everybody's talking about them around their floor. But I think they have a higher ceiling than most people would guess. And on the other hand, Turkey, I think people don't realize that their floor could be lower than people expect. But I think Turkey will get off to the right start. They're better than Georgia. They've got more players that you and I know by name from watching Serie A and Bundesliga, and we don't have to do a bunch of extra research to figure out who they are, which I've done a lot of extra research to figure out who a lot of these people are, and then I still don't remember their names. But Turkey are a good team. And with Soyuncu in the back, even without, I'm forgetting his name, they have another great center back who's not going to be at the tournament, which is going to be a big miss for them. Goalkeeper is a question as well. But I think that this game against Georgia is the right start for them. They're a team that can get hot and cold really easy. And so I think starting off with kind of, no offense to Georgia, but a little bit of a layup is exactly what this Turkey side needs. So 2-0. That's my prediction. We have made it to the last game of match day 1. Portugal, Czechia. Let's start with Czechia. They're an easy team to talk about. Their coach quit / was fired the day they qualified for the tournament or the day after they qualified for the tournament. And so they've had a coach who's been in the team for like 3, 4, 5 months. Patrick Schick has been injured a lot of this year, and he's their star man. Sushek is really good, but it's not going to be a good tournament for Czechia. Qualifying already looked rough, and their coach is gone, and they haven't looked good since, and Patrick Schick is coming off injury. It doesn't look good for Czechia, and I think they have maybe the most unfortunate start of any team in the tournament, because if you want to talk talent like France, you talk Portugal. We're talking about a team that could have Cristiano Ronaldo coming off the bench as a super sub. Probably the second best player of all time, coming off the bench as a super sub while he's still banging in goals. It's in Saudi Arabia, but he's still banging in goals consistently. Cristiano Ronaldo off the bench. They've got a great midfield. Otavio, Palinha, Bruno Fernandes, of course. And then, there's going to be questions about who starts at 9. Gonzalo Ramos or Cristiano Ronaldo. Ruben Dias, João Cancelo. I mean, these are guys that are really good for club. And, particularly with a guy like Bruno Fernandes, I think he's going to be better for country. United have had a tough season, and he's had to play a bit more defensive than I think he would like to. And so freeing him up in a little bit more of a creative role, I think he's going to do a lot of good. I think he's going to have a great tournament. I think Rafael Leao is going to have a great tournament. Don't be surprised if Bernardo Silva doesn't play, because I don't know if he fits the Portuguese system the same way he fits Man City, because I don't know if he's a right winger or if he's a center midfielder. And if he's a center midfielder, does he fit? Because he's going to push Bruno Fernandes out of the creative role, and Bruno's the engine of the team right now. There's questions with the Portuguese team. There's questions with every team. I'm not worried about them. I think they might be up there with France in terms of, how far I think they can go in this tournament. Up there with France, up there with England, and up there with Germany, who are, I guess, up there just because they're the host. But yeah, I think Portugal, in my opinion, is probably the third favorite for this tournament. I think they're playing a Czechia team who's pretty weak. I have 3-0 here. I think it could be worse. Not blurring the scores anymore. We've talked about the teams at the beginning. I don't need to hide it from you. You know what I think about the teams, so I don't need to hide the score. We're going right into talking about the score. Croatia's pragmatic. They're defensive, and they're old. So I don't think it's going to be like a goal-scoring explosion here like some people predict because they're playing Albania. I think that's going to be ugly at times, but I think Croatia will get the win. They're the better team. They would be really disappointed not to come out of here with a win. And as much as they're an aging team, I do think that they still have the ability to score against a team like Albania. I think this might be the best game of the tournament. Germany, like I said, young team. And I think that they're going to be at risk of being caught out because of the fact that they're a young team. But they're also a transitionary team who's really good. They've been really good in good recent form. So I think that they can score goals. And I think that they'll have really good passages and really good moments where it looks like Hungary's not in the game at all. But this is a Hungarian side who I would not count out against anybody at this point. And so I'm not going to count them out against Germany. I think that they're going to give them a run for their money, and I think this will be a sensational watch for a neutral. So mark your calendars. Next Wednesday. This is a snooze fest. Scotland, super pragmatic. They play with that back five, super organized defensively. They're going to be a tough team to play against. Their recent game against Spain, I mean, they annoyed the hell out of them. Rodri was fuming at the end of that game, but that being said, I don't think that they have a goal-scoring threat. I talked about Dykes. I talked about Shanklin. I do think that, they have potential to score if John McGinn plays really well in this tournament, but it's going to be tougher for them to score goals than it is for them to prevent goals all tournament to an extreme extent. And Switzerland's old. I don't think they have what it takes to break down a Scottish side like this. They lack a true attacking threat, and Granit Xhaka is not going to hit a 40-yard rocket against them, and neither is Xherdan Shaqiri. They've both grown into particular roles, and Xhaka played his role sensationally at Leverkusen this year, but I don't think he's the type of player that's going to take over a team and carry them on his back, and I don't think Shaqiri is either, and I think that's what the Swiss need right now. So I'm taking 0-0 in this game. And if I would watch every game of the Euros if you can, But if you're going to skip a game, that's all I'm saying. Slovenia and Serbia, we've talked about both of them a little bit already. I think Serbia are a potential dark horse in this group, not in the tournament as a whole, but in this group. But I think everybody's a dark horse in this group except for England, because whoever makes it out of this group is not going to be a team that's good enough for the round of 16 to some extent. I think this group is top heavy and bottom weak. With that being said, Oblak keeps Serbia from scoring too many goals. Mitrovic and Milinkovic-Savic are going to combine to some extent. They're going to get one. And I'm picking Sesko to get one again. Maybe I'm just on this Sesko train, but I have him for a few goals in this tournament. Denmark, England. This score might surprise some people, but I had England getting to a slow start against Serbia. I said Serbia might even take the lead early in that game, but I think England are going to wake up late in that game and then get an extra wake-up call after that game when all of England is on their back for struggling against the Serbian side. And then they're going up against what everybody would expect is the second-best team in the group. I'm not so sure that's the case because of the fact that Denmark haven't been that good in recent time. They were really good in Euro 2020, but they were a flop at the World Cup. And they're aging out, and I don't think that they called up enough young players. And if you're going to be relying on Højbjerg in midfield, who barely even played this year, you're going to struggle, especially against an England side who has a sensational midfield. I mean, we're talking about a potential midfield of Trent Alexander-Arnold, Declan Rice, and Jude Bellingham, with Phil Foden on the wing, who can play as a midfielder, and potentially Cole Palmer on the wing, who can play as a midfielder. So this one's simple for me. I think England are going to dominate in this game in particular. I think the other two are more likely to be struggles because I think England are going to take the other two games a little bit more lightly. But I think that they are going to overestimate Denmark and play really well. This is another interesting game. It's a rematch of a semifinal of the last Euros, Spain and Italy, as was the last game. But they're both really pragmatic teams. Well, Spain are pragmatic in a sense. They don't allow a lot of goals. They also often struggle to score goals. We've seen it time and time again with them at major tournaments where a team will just sit back against them and Spain will pass 700, 800 passes but never get anywhere near scoring. I think that's the type of game we're in for here. Italy are going to sit back, and I think a guy like Federico Chiesa is going to break in behind on the Spanish defense one time, and Italy probably just going to sit back again after that. 1-0, pretty simple for me. And if you're keeping track, that does put Spain on 1 point in third place in the group going into the final match day, with Italy on 6 and Croatia on 4. So interesting final day for that group. Looking at this matchup, not much to be said. I think Ukraine's the better team. They've got more talent, and they've got a little extra something to play for. So I've gone for a 2-0 win. Austria, Poland. I already talked about both of these teams at length. I really like Austria. Another thing about Ralf Rangnick, because I love Ralf Rangnick apparently. Austria used to play all of their international games in one stadium, and he changed that. So he was like, no, we're gonna go all over the country to play, and it's revived the fan atmosphere for Austria because people are more invested, because people see them more, and I think that's huge when the tournament is like right next door. I think there's going to be a lot of Austrian fans at every single one of their games. And with an aging Polish team against an Austrian team that's well coached, well organized, and extremely talented, I think Austria will handle them 2-0. I think this game is going to be a game of chicken. because both of these teams like to play defensive, pragmatic football. And if both teams sit back the entire game, nothing's going to happen. But neither of them are going to want to take a risk that puts them at risk of being counterattacked on. So I think it's going to be a battle of who bites first on offense. I think France will do that. And I think it might cost them, and I think it might help them because the Netherlands are definitely the type of team that can counterattack against you and make you pay, which is unfortunate because I would like France to stop playing pragmatic. I would like them to beat the hell out of the Netherlands so that they stop playing that way and they're like, yeah, we're just going to attack all the time. That would be so fun to watch. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be a little bit 50-50. I think the Netherlands will catch them once, and I think France will catch the Netherlands once. I think this game can go either way. I think it's a good matchup. Tactically, the type of matchup that is a stalemate. I definitely think France are the way better team, but France haven't taken 9 points out of a group in a very long time. You can go look back how long it's been. It's been a long time. So I don't think they're taking 9. And I think this is a tactical nightmare that will end in a stalemate. I kind of hinted at it before. I said Georgia might surprise people at this tournament. I said they might do better than a lot of people thought. And I have them winning a game against the Czech Republic or Czechia. Czechia, this is not their tournament. And honestly, it might have been better if they didn't qualify because their coaching staff is a revolving door right now. They were really bad in qualifying, and their coach quit, and they have a new coach. And Schick hasn't, I've said it all before. This is going to be a tough tournament for Czechia, despite the fact that they're in a winnable or second placeable group. But Georgia, big result, 1-0 win. This is why I think the Georgia game is going to be really important for Turkey. I think they'll beat Georgia, which will give them a lot of momentum, and then they'll play Portugal. And I think Portugal will handle them because Portugal are that good. And I think that Turkey will save their tournament by holding on to the fact that they already have 3 points. If they played Portugal first, they're out in the group stage. But they play Georgia first, and that is a winnable game. And so, they sandwich Portugal in the middle. Win game 1, win game 2, you go through. You play Portugal first, and everything comes apart in the locker room, you're struggling. You play Portugal last, and everything, you feel like you're on top, you could win the group, and then you lose, and you're going into the knockout stages on a loss. And I think the schedule is perfect for Turkey. 3-1 for Portugal here. I don't think Portugal will lose in this group. Belgium, Romania, really interesting game. I don't think Belgium are going to get 9 points, similar to what I said with France, except Belgium don't deserve to get 9 points. They're not a good enough team. Belgium are dropping points at some point in this group, and I think Slovakia are the worst team in the group for sure. They won't drop points against them. And I think Ukraine are going to play such an aggressive style. They've got so much pace. I don't think that's the type of result that will get Belgium to drop points. So I had to have Belgium dropping points somewhere, and they're playing a pragmatic team again with Romania. And Belgium struggled at points in the last World Cup against teams like Romania. It's really struggled against Morocco, if you remember. And I think Romania are a similarly built team to that Morocco team. So I think Belgium dropped points here. I think it's a draw. We're going into the final day. The standings in Group A, who we're looking at first, would be Hungary in first place with 4 points and a +2 goal differential. Germany right behind them, same points, just one less in the goal differential. Scotland in third place with 1 point and a -1, and Switzerland in last with 1 point and a -2. I think the Hungarian side that I've talked about being really, really good, really, really important in this team, I think one question that I have for them is can they play as a favorite? Can they play as a clear favorite? Can they play against a team that's literally not going to try and attack at all, and they're just going to sit back and try and counter you? And I think they'll struggle with that. I think they will struggle to break down a Scottish side that is built to defend. And I don't think that they're going to lose. I think they're going to drop points. They're going to finish second in the group. The other final match for Group A, poor end of the tournament for Switzerland. They're going to finish with only 1 point and a -4 goal differential behind Scotland, who have 2 points and a -1. I have Germany finishing top, undefeated, 7 points, but it's not pretty. It's not pretty at all. A tie with Hungary, a team that they'll feel that they should beat. A tough 1-0 win against Scotland, and then maybe a rewarding, but again, tough 2-0 win against Switzerland. This will be another ugly game, and despite the fact that Germany are going to go through as first place with 7 points, I think people are going to be asking a lot of questions of them going into the knockout stages. Going into Group B, coming into the final day with 2 matches played by every team, they go into it with 6 and +3 and 4 and +1. Spain in third with 1 point, -1 goal differential, playing against Albania, 0 points, -3 goal differential. Because of the fact that this game ends in a tie for me, it means both teams go through as a first and second place finisher. That's part of the reason why I think that this will be a boring 0-0. The other reason is I think both teams are very pragmatic, counterattacking defensive teams. This whole group is made up of pragmatic, counterattacking defensive teams. I think this group could be a snooze fest, which is unfortunate because it's the group of death. Spain, as I've already said, I have them already guaranteed finishing third, but they will know that they're probably going to finish third going into this game, so they will be prepared to fight for a third-place qualifier spot. And I think they're going to show up in a big, big way, get a lot of momentum going into the knockout stages with a 5-0 win to guarantee them a spot as a third-place finisher. France are the best team in the tournament. Poland are going to struggle, but I think France are going to go up big and then fall off a little bit, rest a little bit, make some substitutions. I think Poland will get one back then. But going into this group's D, France would have 4 with a +2, Netherlands 4 with a +1. So France will want to run up the score, so that 3-0, that Poland pulling one back maybe could hurt them. Austria I have in third with 3 points and a +0, and then Poland in last. And when we look at this other game, it could be dangerous for France if the Netherlands can put up big numbers against Austria. But I don't think that will happen at all, because I think Austria is going to pull off what many will call a huge upset, beating the Netherlands 2-1. I think Austria will have a lot of fans. I think they're going to be high pressing, and I think a Dutch team that is super pragmatic and defensive, that's not set up in their best formation with their best starting 11, missing Frankie de Jong, will struggle to play out from the back against the high press of an extremely well-organized team like Austria. And I think this is a great matchup for Austria, and that puts them in second place, 6 points. The Dutch will have to wait for a third-place qualifier spot. Spoiler alert, they'll get it. I don't have things ending well for the Danes. I don't know. I've already talked about these teams at length. Serbia, I really like the fact that Milinkovic, Savic, and Mitrovic are going to have a lot of chemistry. And I also like the fact that they're not super aged out like Denmark are. Denmark were really poor at the last World Cup. And going into the final day, they'd be in last place by my current predictions, while Serbia would be in second. Serbia would be in third. Both of them would be on 1 point. Goal differential would be the only thing separating them. But I think Serbia would be a team that actually feel like they have something to play for, while the aging out Danish would almost feel just ready to go home. This puts a position where Slovenia can go through if they can get a result against England. I don't think they will. I think England will win handedly, but I think Slovenia will give everything to this game, which will allow England to score more. But I think England's weak defense without Harry Maguire will look a little bit exposed here. Not the best goalkeeper. Pickford's really good, and not the best center back pairing. Stones is great, but who's going to play alongside him? I think they're going to expose some issues that England have at the back, while also having England handily finish off Group C, 9 points out of 9, plus 7 goal differential. Ukraine and Belgium, I already told you. I have Belgium dropping points once, but I think the matchup here is bad for Ukraine. I think a guy like Kevin De Bruyne can cut through a high press like a knife through butter. And I think he'll be picking apart this Ukrainian team. So I give it 2-0. Going into the final day, the standings would be in this Group E. Belgium on 4 points with a +2, Ukraine on 4 points with a +2, Romania on 2 with 0, and Slovakia with 0 and a -4. So this leaves open a window for Romania to pass Ukraine and put Ukraine in a position where they need a third-place finish. And while I rate Romania, I don't think they're that team. At this point, Slovakia is just hoping for a result. They don't want to go home with 0, and I don't think they will. I don't think they'll deserve to. This group is a melting pot of anybody can do anything. So I didn't want to send anybody home with 0 points in this group because I think anything can happen, even if I think Slovakia is the worst team in the group. And I have them finishing as such, putting Romania into a third-place team spot. If you've been keeping track, Slovenia is already eliminated from Group C, and Scotland are on the chopping block. If third place in Group F can do better than 2 points and a -1 goal differential, they'll be going home as well. Going into the final day in this Group F, Portugal 6 points, and I already told you I have them winning. So, and Turkey 3, Georgia already has 3, and if you're keeping track, that does mean that I already have Scotland out of that third place position going home, and I do have Georgia going through. I did spoil it a little bit. I do expect a little bit more from them than most people. I have them going through as the worst of the third place teams, and they'll get their chance on the knockout stage. Turkey are going to finish second, 6 points. Good showing from them. Weak group. I think it was the exact right scheduling group that they needed to have a good showing at the tournament. And Portugal, I mean, we can look at that game. I only went for 2-0 because I think Portugal will have nothing left to play for at this point, and I don't think Georgia's the type of team to roll over no matter what. So, yeah, that finishes off the group stages, and we're on to the knockout rounds. And we start with holding champions Italy versus the tournament sweethearts Georgia. Georgia were in a very, very fortunate group for the fact that they could get out of that group. And Italy, not a great showing at the tournament, but I don't want to trick anybody. I don't think that Georgia's run continues. I don't expect that much of them. And a reminder that I have them going through to the next round with literally just 3 points from a win over Czechia. I'm going to pick Italy, and that's a pretty easy one for me. As is the next one, Serbia, great showing, great tournament. I think they'll be happy with that to get out of a group that they'll feel like was a group that they feel probably that they should get out of, but that would be tough. But Germany, transitionary period, as I said, but they're the hosts. So it's going to be a tough tournament for them, obviously. I don't think that everything's going to look right. I think they're going to struggle at points, but I don't think it's going to be the German team that we've seen disappoint at other tournaments in recent times. I think that they're going to be a force to be reckoned with, especially once it gets to the knockout stages and those German crowds really start getting out to support them. Moving on, Portugal, Spain. I didn't even realize that. That's an Iberian matchup. I really wanted, I have Spain as a third place team, and I really wanted to pick them to go to the quarterfinals, but this is a matchup where I just can't see it happening. The way I have things panning out, as a third place team, sometimes you get unlucky. As a first place team, sometimes that third place team, a little tricky. I think this would be a really good game. I'm going to pick Portugal. That's an easy one for me. I'm going to pick Portugal, but Spain could definitely win that game. But I think this will be a good learning experience for their younger players, and I think they'll be better at the World Cup in 2026. And I think the Spanish FA might even take this tournament as a win, um, but probably not, considering the results that I gave them. A draw and a win, 4 points in the group, lost to Italy, not the best. And on the other side of things, now we have an Austria Ukraine, which is a match between two second place teams. What a game. Oh, man. You got the Sweethearts versus Ralph Ragnick. Um, I think the Austrian team's better. I think the Ukrainian team has a lot more to play for, and I think the Ukrainian team is going to try and play a similar style to the style that Austria is going to play. But I think Austria is just going to do it better. They have more practice in it. Like I said, they've been brought up through a lot of them through that Red Bull system that Ralph Ragnick really built. This is his team. I mean, he was made to coach this team. And an Austrian quarterfinal appearance in a Euro in Germany, that is something for them to be happy about. And man, do we have some other good matchups now. Belgium versus the Netherlands. That's a first place team versus a third place team. I'm going to pick the Netherlands. I had them finishing third, but a lot of that was just due to matchups in the group. I think they don't match up well against that Austrian team. And on the other side of things, I think they will match up well against that Belgian side. But it's two teams that are in a tough period, and I think they're both ready for a transition. One of them in terms of players, one of them in terms of coaching staff. Moving on to Turkey, great tournament for them to get out of the group, especially after the last Euros where they lost every game. But unfortunately for them, as a second place team, they come up against first place France, who I'm not going to have losing this early in the tournament. It's just not happening. I'll probably have them winning. I mean, if I'm being honest, man, these are tough games to call. England, Romania. I want to make this one quick because this next one's going to be really tough, and I'm going to have to debate with myself. Romania, I have them, getting through with 3 draws, and I do think that they're a really pragmatic team. But I think this English team, it's going to start cracking, and I think that the only teams that they'll struggle against are teams that can really go at them, which means that they'll definitely be cheering for Croatia in this game against Hungary. This is a tough one. Luka Modric is a great player. Croatia have a lot of great players beside him. That midfield is sensational. Modric, Brozovic, and Kovacic. I have questions in the attack. Gvardiol in the defense is sensational. So, that's a positive, but there's not too many positives about this Croatian team. And with the Hungarian side, I think there's only positives. However, as I said, I do think they'll struggle against a team that'll set up really defensively. I had them drawing Scotland because of it. But, man, this is really tough for me. Two teams I would like both of them to go further in the tournament, but I'm going to pick Hungary. I think Hungary is the better team at this point in time, and Luka Modric's dream for a trophy is going to end against Hungary. All right, we got the holders versus the hosts, Italy versus Germany. Great quarterfinal here. I think Italy, from what I've projected so far, are lucky to have gotten as far as they have. Matchups were good for them. Beating a Spanish side, I think because of the fact that they're going to be good on the counterattack and Spain's going to possess a lot. Tying a Croatian side because I don't think either team's going to really go at it. And beating an Albanian side because Albania aren't that great. And then getting the luck of the draw to face the weakest of the third place teams in the round of 16. I think people in Italy are going to be like, we're going back to back. But, people are talking about the Boston Celtics with the Mickey Mouse run. Out of the group of death, winning the group of death, I think Italy have been on a Mickey Mouse run. And I think Germany will handle them, and the hosts will be going to the semifinal. Portugal and Austria, another tough one for me. Ralph Ragnick is a great coach. But I think the high press beauty ends there because Portugal are just that good. They're that good. Yeah. I mean, enough said, to be honest. Yeah. France versus the Netherlands rematch. It's kind of funny that they can rematch in the quarterfinals. It's so unlike normal major tournaments, but a first place team and a third place team can do it in this tournament, and a second place team and a third place team can do it. It's really funky like that. But I think France will have them figured out this time. You know, they'll struggle with them in the group stage, but if they get them a second time, France is not struggling with a team 2 times in a row. And then we got England versus Hungary. Hungary's a really good side, but this English team, I kind of have them on a roll. And I don't think Hungary's the team to stop that roll. But I think this is a really good showing for a team like Hungary and a team like Austria. And I think both of them very close to home. There are going to be a lot of fans at these games. And I think both of those teams will take this tournament as a win, despite the fact that they will not be lifting the trophy. All right. Semifinal number 1. Germany and Portugal. This is a tough one again. It's the hosts. And it would be awesome for this Germany team in transition if they could go all the way, but I don't think this is the tournament for them. I don't think they're ready yet. And I think coming up against a team like Portugal, who are absolutely flying lately, is going to be the nail in the coffin for them. They I think, again, similar to Italy, they get a benefit of a lot of good draws coming out of the gate here. And they struggle through all of them. And Portugal's the type of team where if you struggle against them, you're really going to struggle. So I'm going to have Portugal go into the final. And, this game, there's not much to talk about with it, to be honest. And so I'm not going to talk about it too much. I think France is the better team. I'm going to have France go into the finals. I wouldn't be surprised if this matchup actually happens and England wins. But there's really nothing to pick between these two teams. But France beat them at the last World Cup. And France, I think, are the best team in the world. And we get a rematch of Euro 2016 here. A Euro that gave Cristiano Ronaldo his first international trophy of 2. As a super sub in this tournament, he'll have a chance to get another. But I think this French team that crashed out in the round of 16 of the last Euros and then on penalties and then lost on penalties again in the World Cup final. Obviously, they're the best team in the world. They won the World Cup final. Then they, had a stinky Euro, and then they went to the World Cup final again. They're sensational, and I think they're due for some silverware. And I think they're going to continue this generational run of form. And I have France winning the Euro. And that's that for this video. I picked every single game of Euro 2024. If this video does well, I would love to make a lot more Euro content. I love this game. I'm American, so I'll call it soccer now, even though I've been calling it football all video. But I love this game. It's my favorite. It's my favorite thing in the world. I watch tactical videos for fun. So I already know I'm going to make a Copa America video just the same as this one. It'll be a lot shorter because there's a lot less teams. But yeah, if you've enjoyed this video, leave a comment, make your prediction. That's what I'd like to see. How'd I do? I'll check back at the end of this. I'll give it a watch, see how I did. And yeah, I hope to make more content about this sport because it is my favorite thing in the world. And yeah, that's it. Thanks. France, European champs.